Alright, what's happening, guys? Trev back again, here to bring you another video. This video is going to be going over my top 5 favorite Dragon Ball Z villains. So I know what you're thinking. Dragon Ball Z, man, that's random. Well, I mean, it's not really random because the movie's coming out this year. There's a new Dragon Ball Z movie going to be hitting theaters in Japan. Eventually will trickle over here into North America. And as I did a video yesterday about the Frieza Figuarts figure, the action figures from Dragon Ball Z Figuarts line have been nuts. They've been so cool that I've been getting back into it again. Although, for me, Dragon Ball Z will never die, or Dragon Ball will never die. It is, in my opinion, the greatest anime ever made, my favorite anime ever made. And even up to this point, nothing for me has been able to top it. Even though Naruto's been great, Bleach was good, a lot of people love One Piece. For me, my number one is and always will be probably Dragon Ball. That being said, I did say the top 5 favorite villains from Dragon Ball Z. To be more specific, it would include my favorites from any of the Dragon Ball series. But the thing about it is that when I look at the villains from each of them, obviously GT, that's gone right away. So that's none of the villains from GT are going to be in here because GT was pretty terrible. I mean, the best would probably be Baby, and I didn't think that villain was that great. GT just sucked. Okay, I'll just say GT was terrible. Dragon Ball, the original, was really good. But in terms of the best villains from that, I don't think you can really compare the villains from that to Dragon Ball Z. I don't think they were as good. King Piccolo was a good villain, really good villain. But would he make my top 5 list overall? No. Maybe if I did a top 10. But top 5, no. And all the other villains from Dragon Ball, including the tournaments and all that, whatever. They were okay, but not great. More adventure-based anyway than fighting. So really, the meat of this and you know, my top 5 favorite villains are going to all be from Dragon Ball Z. They won't be from the others. Although it is all considered to be Dragon Ball if you go by the manga. So however you want to, you know, associate that in your mind, you go right ahead. So anyway, let's get started. Number 5, of course, going from my least favorite to most favorite, being number 1. Number 5 is going to be Boo. And which version of Boo? I would probably say my favorite version might be Kid Boo, or, I mean, Fat Boo is a lot of fun, too. Although, it could be argued that Fat Boo is not really a villain, per se. So, I guess we'll just go with Kid Boo. Plus, he was kind of like the final boss of Dragon Ball Z. So, a pretty cool character. But I think that, you know, when you consider Dragon Ball Z having 3 huge overarching villains that were around for longer than any of the others, of course, you're going to have Frieza, Cell, and Boo. For me, Boo is the worst of the 3, and still in the top 5 because he had so much time and everything. And there was some exciting parts with Boo, but I just felt like the character had no personality. It was so one-dimensional, so simple, too simplistic, not interesting enough. And I just felt like at that point, maybe the writing of Dragon Ball Z had been going on for too long, and maybe Toriyama got a little lazy, so he decided not to give Boo a personality, because he didn't really have one, to be honest with you. So he's number 5. Number 4 is going to be Broly. Now, I didn't say that this would include the movies, but I will include all the movies as well. Now, the thing with that, though, is that this is going to be the only character on the list from a Dragon Ball Z movie, because the movies are usually pretty terrible. And when I say pretty terrible, I mean pretty damn bad. So, that being said, Cooler was cool. You know, Cooler could be argued as probably one of the other cool villains from the movies. But that's it for me. All the other villains from the movies were just okay. They weren't great. Broly, though, was awesome. Broly that's a character that I would have liked to actually see in the actual anime itself, because he's so cool that I think they could have done a whole story arc. And actually, I think if he would have had the 3rd big story arc instead of Boo, Dragon Ball Z would have been even better, because I think that would have been even more exciting and interesting than Boo's. Hence why he's number 4 and Boo's number 5, because he is very awesome and definitely a threat. You know, being that he's a Super Saiyan as well, interesting. You know, another planet, awesome. Yeah, they could have done a lot of cool stuff with him. Too bad they didn't. Anyway, Broly's number 4. Number 3 is going to be Vegeta. Absolutely, Vegeta. He needs to be on here. Now, you could say, yeah, he's an anti-hero, whatever. Yeah, but at the beginning, he was a villain. Okay, he changed. He developed over time. At the beginning of the show, he was pure villain, man. And when he was Majin, pure villain. He was not, you know. And then, of course, afterwards, maybe came back a little bit at the end there with the self-destruct and all that. But at the beginning of the series, when you have Vegeta there, that was probably, you know, one of the best villains in all of Dragon Ball. For me, number 3. But for everybody, I think you probably can remember some of the moments from the show that were really special with Vegeta fighting Goku at the end there. I mean, so many cool techniques and so many different, you know, the Kaioken and then Vegeta coming back with, oh, it's just all kinds of goodness. And then, of course, on Namek too, he was a villain too, even though he wasn't really on Frieza's side. So, you know, but he still wasn't a good guy at that point, I don't think. So I'm going to put Vegeta as number 3. He makes a great villain, especially Majin. Later on, that was really fun too, where he's fighting Goku afterwards, and he actually beats him. Trickery, of course, but he beats him. Yeah, you can say that. He did. He did. And, you know, it was just great. So he's number 3, of course. Number 2 for me is Frieza. Okay, now I know a lot of people would be like, Frieza's got to be number 1. For me, he's number 2. Now, Frieza is obviously one of the best villains in all of Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. One of the most recognizable. The reasons why I put Frieza at number 2 instead of number 1. Well, his fight with Goku is probably one of the best fights in all of Dragon Ball. One of the best fights in anime history, if not the best. But there's a few things about him I don't really like. Now, number 1 is Frieza. I always couldn't tell when I was younger. When I was really young and I was watching Dragon Ball Z, I actually thought that Frieza was a chick. And I'm not kidding. I thought she was a chick. And obviously Frieza's supposed to be a he, of course. But the voice acting, especially in the English version, is really strange. It leads you to believe that, you know, it makes you feel like it's a she. It really does. Not only that, but her first form is very, very, I mean, she's got like lipstick and stuff, the horns, the floating little ball thing. You know, the whole I want to caress the balls, you know, the Dragon Balls, I want to caress them. You guys remember that? It was weird. But the final form is cool and all that. Stupid monkey and throwing all this stuff, getting the tail cut off, grabbing Krillin and making him explode. Goku going crazy. It was good. But for me, number 2. So that leaves number 1. My favorite Dragon Ball Z villain is Cell. By far, Cell. Why? I think Cell has all the makings to be a perfect villain. Perfect Cell, perfect villain? Yeah, it's true. It's true. I mean, he's got the cells from all of our favorite characters in the show. All of the Earthlings, you know. Goku, well, I shouldn't say Earthlings, because Goku and Saiyans are not really Earthlings, but you know what I'm saying. People who resided on Earth and from Goku's battles and everything. He's got the Saiyan in him. He's able to do the Kamehameha. Is able to, you know, pretty much take out the whole, all the Z fighters. And just in the end, of course, loses to Gohan. And I'd probably say that single fight at the end with Gohan and the father-son Kamehameha is probably, for me, the single greatest moment in all of Dragon Ball Z. A lot of people, like, for example, in Dragon Ball Kai, it ends right after the Cell Saga. A lot of people feel like that right there, you know, from the beginning of Dragon Ball Z to there, is basically perfect. The Buu stuff afterwards, there's a lot of problems. Great Saiyaman, all that shit, whatever. It's not the best. But the Cell Saga in particular, for me, just took what the Frieza Saga was, stepped it up a level to a notch, and, you know, it was just amazing. You got the time travel, you got Trunks, you got the androids, you got him absorbing the androids, at first not being that strong, having to use sort of hiding and running away and all these things that we hadn't really seen up to this point. And very unique and very special, too. I also like all of Cell's different forms, particularly Perfect Cell. His fight with Vegeta, where Vegeta does the final flash, amazing, amazing. So, Cell is one of my favorite villains in anything. And for me, Dragon Ball Z, he's number 1. His parts, his fights with Goku on the World Tournament stage that he creates there, all the things he does, Very, very interesting villain and my favorite Dragon Ball Z villain. Anyway, that's pretty much all I got to say. That's Trev's top 5 favorite DBZ villains. Let me know what you guys think about the video. Let me know what your top 5 favorite are. And any more Dragon Ball Z suggestions, please write them in the comments. I do read them. And if I can make a good video about it, will do. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. See you for the next one. This is Trev. Saying peace.